We've seen interest rates on the rise, and for the first time in a good while, we saw our average sales price decrease compared to July of the previous year. So what does this mean for our local Southwest Indiana real estate market update? Hey, I'm Trae Dauby with Dauby Real Estate. Now, I want to take a couple minutes to recap what's happening here in our local Southwest Indiana real estate market here in August of 2026. When I'm referring to Southwest Indiana, I'm talking about 8 counties. That's Vanderburgh County, Warwick County, Spencer, Perry, DuBois, Pike, Posey, and Gibson County. So the 8 counties here in Southwest Indiana. And whenever we look at the data, what we have seen is we've seen that 2,668 homes have sold in the first 7 months of this year. This has actually been the most homes we've seen sell in the first 7 months of the year since 2022. Whenever we look back over the last 3 years, we saw it just average 2,550 homes for sale. And whenever you look back to 2016 and 2022, we saw an average of over 2,900 homes that have sold. So we're still down substantially compared to 2016 to 2022, but it is nice to see a rebound in those sales. But the question is how are we going to finish up the year? Ultimately, there's 2 things that dictate how the year finish in regards to the number of homes that sell and how that affects prices. And the first thing is listings. What's our inventory like? And the second thing is interest rates. Let's talk about the listings first. Currently, year to date, we've had 3,499 homes be listed for sale. So 3,500. And when we look from 2015 to 2019, that average was 3,800. So we're still not seeing as many homes hit the market as we did between 2015 and 2019, but we are up substantially compared to 2020 to 2025, where we had an average of just 3,300 homes for sale. And what we're seeing is we saw a lock-in effect from interest rates, where interest rates were extremely low over a long period of time, and people didn't want to make a move because they didn't want to give up their low interest rate. But the further we get from 2022, when rates were extremely low, life is happening to people. They're having babies, they need a bigger home. A loved one passed away, so they need to downsize. Plus, as new buyers enter the market, they're not familiar with interest rates in the 2s and 3s because that's not normal. Since they've been looking, it's been in the 6, 7, or even 8%. Speaking of interest rates, as I record this today, interest rates are right at 6.67%, which is exactly where they were 1 year ago. However, 1 year ago, interest rates were starting to trend down. In fact, they got down to just 6% in February. Then we had the Iran conflict, and we saw interest rates slowly start to climb. They've been pretty steady around the 6.5 mark, and they've recently started to climb a little bit to the 6.67% mark. But the good news is we still are under 7%, and we've seen some consistency since December of 2023. Since December of 2023, interest rates have been consistently between the 6 and 7% mark, which is good to see. Due to the stability of the interest rates, we're starting to see stability in the prices as well. Through the first 7 months of this year, the average sales price was $263,600, which is up 3.8% above the average of $254,000 that we saw for the first 7 months of 2025. So 3.8% is a good steady number for home appreciation. In 2020, 2021, we saw home values actually go up 13% in 1 year, followed by 9% the next year. So a 22% increase in home values over a 2-year period. That's not sustainable long-term here in Southwest Indiana. So it's good to see it back into that normal range of 3.8%. The question is, though, where are home prices going to go? And there's only 2 things that really affect home prices, and that, quite frankly, is supply and demand. And while we're talking about supply, currently here in Southwest Indiana, we have 916 homes that are actively on the market and for sale. Based on the number of homes that have sold over the last 6 months, that means we are at 2.4 months supply of homes. So that means we are still in a seller's market. As a reminder, less than 5 months supply means we're in a seller's market. Above 7 months means we're in a buyer's market. Between 5 and 7 means we are in a neutral market. So at 2.4 months, we are in a strong seller's market. But we do have more supply, as I mentioned, than we did over the past few years. Last year around this time, we had around 860 homes for sale. Right now, we're at 916 homes for sale. So the only other variable is demand. And what affects demand is the number of people that are looking to move, which is heavily influenced by the interest rates, which I just mentioned. As I mentioned, we did see prices drop in July of 2026 when compared to July of 2025. This month, for July, we were at $273,000 compared to $287,000 as our average sales price in July of 2025. But every other month this year, with the exception of January, we've seen an increase. So we did see a price drop in January as well. What can cause these things? Well, it is an average. So there could just be more homes listed for sale that are at a lower price point. Oftentimes, when investors sell houses, they sell them in packages where they may list 20 homes that are all under 100,000, which brings down the average sales price for the month. So I wouldn't be concerned about it because, as I mentioned, year to date, our average sales price is up 3.9%. And what we're seeing is home sellers are still getting 98.1% of their final list price. But if you go back to the initial list price, they're getting about 96.2% of their initial list price, the price it was listed at the first day it was on the market. So a lot of home sellers are doing a price reduction in order to get their home sold. But let's take a look at some price brackets now. As you can see, we have a detailed breakdown of homes under 600,000, and then it's lumped above 600,000. But what you can see across the board is if you look at the far right, the month supply of inventory, we are in a seller's market no matter what price point you are at. As you can see, we do have a little bit softer market under $100,000. And then also once you get above the $500,000 mark, the market is a little bit softer with over 4 months supply of homes. And as you can see, under 100,000, there is negotiating room. Homes that sold between 75,000 and 100,000 sold for 95.5% of their final list price, and homes under 75,000 sold for 88.2%. Under 100,000, it's oftentimes investors, and so there's more negotiation and haggling happening at those price points. But as you can see, between 125,000 and 200,000, home sellers are getting over 99% of their list price, and between 200 and 500,000, they're actually getting between 98 and 99% of their list price. So not much negotiating room throughout the $200,000 to $500,000 price brackets. As you can see, inventory is the lowest at the $200,000 to $250,000 price point at just 1.3 months supply of homes on the market. Once you get above 500,000, it does soften a little bit. The good news is, though, between 500 and 600,000, home sellers are still getting 98.6% of their average list price. So once you get above 600,000, they're getting 97.5% of their average sales price to list price ratio. Now, whenever we look at days on market across the board, you can see we're averaging just 42 days on market. About under 200,000 is at just 38 days. Between 200 and 500,000, it's at 43 days. But if you look between 200 and 250,000, again, that is the strongest area. We're just 31 days on market. You do see some softer areas, such as between 450 and 500,000. They're sitting on the market on average 74 days. And then you see between 350 and 400,000 at 61 days, and then 62 and 53 respectively for between 500,000, 600,000, and then over $600,000. So what does all this mean? It's a bunch of data about our real estate market. How does it affect me as a homeowner or somebody looking to buy a home? What I know is if you're thinking about buying a home, now is as good a time as any other. I know several people in the past. I remember talking to people in 2019 that said, the market is hot, I'm gonna wait for it to cool off, and then home values went up 13%. And they again said, it's too hot, I'm gonna wait for it to cool off. Home values went up another 9%. These people are in far worse financial position than if they would have just bought years ago. So if you're thinking about buying, building your net worth through home ownership is a great thing to do. It beats renting any day of the week, as long as you're gonna stay in the house for a few years. If you're thinking about selling, it's gonna be a case-by-case scenario. And that's what we're here for. Depending on what town you're in, how much land your house is in, these are all variables. I went over all of Southwest Indiana, but if you want specific feedback around you and your situation, you can reach out directly to me at 812-777-4611 or visit daubyrealestate.com. We have a really cool tool on there where you can find out your home value instantly and get monthly or even bi-weekly updates in regards to what's happening to the value of your property and what's happening in your neighborhood. But again, feel free to reach out. Again, I'm Trae with Dauby Real Estate, and I hope you have a great day.